I guess we can begin then, if everybody's on. Welcome to this Run the Alps Rendez-Vous. Really great of you guys to join us. If you're tuning in now, that's great. It'll also be, you can tell all of your friends after you see how wonderful it is, that it'll be online in a few days as well. But so for those of you who don't know me, I'm a friend of Run the Alps. I am an American from Vermont, living in France for the last 11 years. And it's actually in France that I started trail running and really kind of dove into it. And I'm a longtime friend of Run the Alps as well. And I've competed around Europe and kind of around the world, specifically on the sky running circuit. And these days I run with Black Diamond and Scarpa. And so Doug, when he asked me to come on board, I was excited to be able to do this rendezvous. So I'm also really excited to be able to introduce our guest today, who is Neil Maclean-Martin. And he's a pretty great person, but it's funny because when I first moved to Shamany 6 years ago, I tried to get an appointment with Neil, and there is a 6-month wait to get one. But fortunately, while he is so on demand now, I get to turn to him when I have a lot of niggling injuries and training questions. So now I've introduced myself, but who is Neil Maclean-Martin? I'm going to give him a little intro. Maybe
be gentle with Hillary.
So he is one of the most sought after physios, or as we say in the US, physical therapists in the Shamany Valley. In 2009, founded the Clinique du Sport here in the Shamany Valley with his wife, Jackie. He's worked as a human performance director for sailing teams from several different countries, big international competitions like the America's Cup. He's also been the lead physical therapist for Great Britain teams for the Commonwealth Games, for the Olympics, a bunch of different places. And I would say he's actually a pretty accomplished athlete himself.
We're all tryers. We all like to try.
But both in trail running and ski mountaineering. So he can come at it both from all of the expertise as a physio as well as an athlete himself.
It's nice to spend time with you, Hillary, when we're not actually working on a professional level. Just hang out, talk about trail running. What you guys, Doug, what everyone's been doing with Run the Alps is just spot on. So just really happy to be a part of it, Thank you.
I'm so glad. So, as I think you know already, a lot of the Run the Alps guests are coming from different places around the world, the US, but some of them haven't ever been to Shamany before. What for you do you think makes Shamany a really special place from a trail runner's perspective?
It's just the fact that we have everything here, and it's when you run across the world. I've been lucky enough to run lots of different places, and you speak to people who've run everywhere in the world, and you come to Shamany, and there is so little you can do to prepare for just how steep, just how epic, and just how big this place really is. And you get used to saying, okay, I always say, well, you can talk in feet, but actually we talk the same numbers, but in meters. So it might be, we've done 3,000 feet, we've done 3,000 meters. It's a huge day out, but it's big. And until you've actually got your head around just what that means for your body and what it means to prepare yourself correctly for that, you're just going to be blown away anyway. But your body will find it pretty tough as well.
Yeah,
and that's the bit that I see.
I can say, just from a very basic perspective, running aside, when I first moved here, I remember I got like a sore neck just from looking up at the mountains so much because they're so tall from the base of the valley
and they sit right on top of you. And what you see, you can pretty much go. You can go off and explore. So it really is. It's you can talk about a little bit of an apprenticeship when you come to Sham. Don't try and do all the big stuff straight away. You can learn. It's such a big valley that there's a whole career's worth of running here, and I think that's why it just sucks people in, and you can't leave. That's what happened to me. We came here with the fight, which with my wife, and we wanted to raise kids here, and that was it. You just fall in love with the place.
Still here. Well, I understand that. I meant to move to France for 6 months, and I've been here 11 years. So sort of to that end, you talked about the steepness, but do you feel like there are some specific trail running injuries that you see specific to Shamany, maybe? Or like sort of what is, kind of unique or special in terms of injuries and this area?
So How about I try and give you the short version of the long version?
Okay.
Okay. It's always great because,
we did say 45 minutes.
I'm going to try. I'll try not to keep on to that. But anywhere in nature, form mimics function. Okay. And I am not the same shape as Jim Walmsley. And we have all sorts of different shapes for runners. You have guys that traditionally have been more adept on the flatter type of running and all the runnable hills. But then you have people who you end up looking like a mountain goat versus the gazelle on the savannah. There are adaptations that happen. And that's why you don't see all the top marathon runners being able to run trail in blistering times. And it comes down to strength. You need strength to spend time in the mountains. And to answer your question there really comes back to, I see a lot of tendon issues. And it's because people simply are not strong enough to cope with running down 2,000 meters, 6,000 feet. I mean, that's just a huge feat. Turn around and go off and do another climb and then come down again. That's the thing. And you see it in Achilles, you see it at the knee, you see it in glutes, you see it all over. And it's really just being able to get yourself sufficiently strong, sufficiently prepared that you don't injure yourself and hurt yourself, and you're able to string a good season together. That's where we see a lot of these overuse injuries.
Well, I think we're going to come back to some of that question about how do you avoid the injuries and how do you get strong enough to come and run here.
That of course, just to jump in, that's aside from all the weird and wonderful ones we have here. Yeah. We may be talking about running, but that doesn't mean we haven't seen broken necks from running. We don't see broken bones. We don't see collapsed lungs. We see, we've got a bit of everything here.
Okay.
You take Shamany, you take your normal injuries. And again, talking with other physios, when I'm out in the pan, other physical therapists, you go to a conference and they talk about what you work with and what you see. The number of weird and wonderful things that I've seen here, because everything is so extreme. The things you read about in books, you maybe come across once or twice in your career. Someone comes in with that once or twice a season. From the skiing in the winter, the number of ACLs we've seen. We see 50 or 60 a year. And the number of other just simple overuse traumatic things is crazy. So we're always on our feet here. You're always on your toes. You never know what's going to come in. Mm-hmm. And I find that from sort of an injury surveillance point of view, I find that it keeps me sharp. And because you never know what someone's going to come in with.
That's super
interesting. It's always challenging. Always challenging.
One thing, though, that I'd be curious about, because you mentioned, right, skiing injuries, running injuries, and I feel like one of the things that I experience as an athlete is sometimes a kind of rough transition, right, between winter and summer. Some people maybe are coming from places that you sort of have the same conditions or you can run year-round. It's not so much the case here. I'm wondering if some of the sort of Chamonix or maybe mountain town specific injuries have to do anything with that.
Yeah, for sure. If you don't get that transition, you don't ramp out of one and ramp into the next season, you're going to get problems. But a lot of the trail runners here, we trail run in the summer and we either ski de fond or we do the ski mountaineering in the winter, which is a great way to offload, give the body lots of variation. And that's really what we want. It's not too much repetition of the same movement patterns. And some of the very top guys, Francois Den, he's really well known for basically putting away the running shoes, skis all winter, brings them back out again. Tantan, she does the same thing. It's very much thinking of the year in two parts. Myself, I know this was, I had a couple of objectives this year on the skimo. So I basically parked the running shoes and I'm experiencing a very tough ramp back into running. The fitness is there. The ski legs are very definitely there. The run legs, they're taking their time, but I'm trying to be sensible. I'm not trying to go out and use all that fitness. Yeah. So still doing maybe a couple of bike sessions thrown in there just to make it a little bit easier in the transition.
I know that no matter how much vert I do on skis, the first time I get out to run and I'll do like a 500 meter downhill and I will be sore for days. And I'm like, how is it possible that I can do say a race that's 6,000 meters when 500 is going to kill me? It's,
You can't hide from physiology. The specific adaptations is all in there.
Yeah. So actually, I'm curious about if there are some frequently asked questions that you get. One of the ones I know that we hear a lot from Run the Alps guests and that I hear people asking a lot is, how do you train for running in the mountains if you don't live in the mountains? Or how do you train maybe for the summer when it's the winter? Sort of things like that. Is the only way to train for running in the mountains to run in the mountains, or are there other ways?
You're absolutely right. People coming here for week-long trips, coming for mini adventures. Some people come for a whole season. Some people have an objective like the UTMB or Tour de France, something that's massive, but they actually don't live anywhere near the mountains. You can compensate. You can find ways of training. It's not the same. It's, as I say, form mimics function, and your body will change and adapt according to the terrain you're on. But you can give yourself lots of advantages, like lots of heads up, lots of ways to make that transition easier. And, it comes back to doing a lot of the specific strength. If you're going to be running down hills, find a section that you can practice running down hills. Everywhere where everyone lives, there are sections of downhill. It doesn't have to be very long, but practice running that one. Do some reps, hike back up it, run back down. Just get used to turning over on that. And I think that's the other big thing. If you're coming from a very much a running background, the down is where you do a lot of muscle damage, but actually going up is where you just hunker down, you find rhythm. And unless you're going to be using poles around here, you're going to find it's really hard hiking. It is steeper than elsewhere, and I came from a lot of running in Scotland and everything else where things are a little bit more rolling and you get away with it. You come here, best guys are using poles, and you just got to read between the lines and say, if the very best guys are using poles, you're going to use poles. It's not a big affront on your ego. Don't worry about it. Everybody does it, and you'll actually enjoy the experience much more.
I've talked to some top 10 finishers of the UTMB who went in saying, I'm not going to use poles, and had big regrets about it afterwards.
It's a sharp learning curve. It really is. And again, on the big races, on the big days, a lot of people will say they use them as much on the down as they do on the up. There's nothing quite like having a proper set of blown quads and just having that a little bit, just to take 5-10 pounds worth of load off the legs when you're coming down. It's a complete game changer. So it's worth practicing before you come. That's the thing.
So I'd actually forgotten to talk to you about this before, and Neil may not toot his own horn, but I know that personally, particularly I think it was during lockdown, maybe I was doing some of your Shamany Mountain Fit videos
yes.
for sort of particularly preparing the season when I couldn't get out and be doing as much as I wanted to be in the mountains.
So we've just to touch on that really briefly. Working in Sham, lots of things have evolved from basically helping people get back from injury. We set up our knee fit program, the Shamany program, and that evolved very quickly into not rather than people just coming back from injury, but people wanting to prevent injury and actually when they put the skis on or they put the trail shoes on, being ready to go. So we tried to help out with that ramp process, that transition with our
Doesn't sound like a great business model though, because you kind of got to depend on people coming to the clinic, right?
It's all about
just go out, huge volume first day, doesn't matter.
Once you've got them hooked into the process, Hillary, people just come back. They know where you are. But no, we did some of our ski fit program on our own, and then we teamed up with Upper Athlete. And working with Stephen Scott's been great, and we've had lots of lovely feedback from people just enjoying the season longer. They say they put the skis on the beginning of December and they feel like it's the end of January, so they don't have that 6 to 8 week period where they miss out. So especially from guides, people who do a lot of stuff on the mountain, we've had nice feedback anyway, and we hope we prevent more than we do. We bring in anyway.
That sounds very nice. And we all hurt ourselves anyway. So, how about any other questions that you get a lot? Are there any things that you've almost got canned answers here because you're going to get the same question?
People. There's all the stock ones. I mean, it's most of the headlines you see in all the trail magazines. It's things like, how much volume should I do? What shoes should I wear? How much do I need to drink? It's all these things. And we can just talk about those very basic ones. There are stock lines for all these things. How should you run? Guess what? The way you run is actually how you should run. There's very few things that you can do. There's very few things you can do, honestly, to change the way you run that are either going to reduce injury or actually make you faster. For the average trail runner, unless you're doing that volume that's like 20, 25, 30 hours a week, your body will naturally find what is efficient. And as you reinforce it, the body will also adapt. So you may not have perfect mechanics, but you will adapt and everything will change in response to that. Shoes, we used to just have shoes, and now we've got things with all the drop, the stack, the soft. You have to be somewhere minimalist or stack height or big soft ones. Everything else. Try lots of different ones. Put the most comfortable pair of shoes on. You will run your best in what feels comfortable to you. and say these aren't really big headline things. And unfortunately, I'm probably a bit boring with all that because there is no magic pair of shoes. You can put things in them, you can take things out, you can make this bigger, make that smaller, but ultimately you're going to run with it. Given a choice, I would say probably lighter is better than heavier, but it has to feel comfortable. You can put all kinds of pronation control, you can do this. It really doesn't change the way you run.
So one of the things, and actually correct me if I'm wrong because I am not a physio, but one of the things that I oftentimes say to people when they ask me sort of the same question is, what shoes should I have? And of course the answer is Scarpa because
of course, yes.
that's my partner and that's what I run in, and I love their shoes, but I usually say, you got to try the shoes. You've got to feel good in the shoes. But the other thing that I oftentimes say is don't wait until your last pair of shoes is completely dead to buy the next pair, which might be a totally different drop, a totally different form, etc. Try to get some overlap.
Absolutely. And if you find a pair of shoes that really works for you, look for them in the sales, stock up, because companies are under pressure to continually evolve shoes. And people will go next season, buy the shoe they think they're going to buy it, and actually little changes here do feel really different. So if you do find a shoe that really works for you, stock up. Keep them rolling, number them up, count how many K you've done in them, how many miles you're running in them, and even that just keeps them a bit fresher as well. The same shoe used over and over again for day after back to back is very different to one that gets used 2 or 3 times a week as opposed to every day.
Any other frequently asked questions?
Yeah, it's all about shortcuts. People love a shortcut. It's what can I do to get there faster? And I suppose one of my stock responses to a lot of people, and it shows you getting old when you've got stock responses to everything, is that the whole process of training is about adapting. And I love a good analogy as well. And it's okay, you can't buy your way to running faster. In a bike, you can buy lighter components. You can do all that sort of thing. If you've got a car, you can put a booster in it. You can put nitrous in it, everything else. You can't change parts on your body. You have to expose them to a type of training, and then wait for the body to react. It has to adapt, and that takes time. And I think people, to a T, get frustrated. I'm the same as well. You think, I've instigated this new bit of my training. I need to see a response to it. 6 to 8 weeks at best. You need to be able to think, okay, where do I want to be 6 to 8 weeks from now? What do I need? What do I expect to feel? And simple stuff. Keep a training diary so you can always reflect and say, well, actually, I don't expect to be there yet. Put a little date and say, okay, now's the time to think about, is this actually having an effect? So don't think of it like you change a car part and you can go faster. You change something in your training and you give it time for it to have effect. And if you don't give it time, you'll try and push, you'll get disillusioned with it, you'll stop using that part of your training, and then you won't know what works for you and what doesn't. It's really just give your body time, do the basics, and you'll see changes, you'll see the results. Well,
so I was actually hoping that you were going to give me some instant solutions. So, as you may know, I did a trail yesterday.
So I'm almost one step ahead of you. My one bit, the one thing that you can change, okay? I'm jumping there because I know where you're going with this, is to say...
he knows me well by now.
Yeah. I also know the numbers that you ran yesterday. Is to say recover hard. Think of training as part of your recovery. I've just mentioned about adaptation. You're waiting for your body to adapt. Well, you can actually influence that by recovering hard. Think of that as another part of your training. Go after it. Make sure you are doing the right things for recovery. It's different for everyone, but give your body time. Get that extra bit of sleep. Eat well. Make better decisions. Do these few things. And that's the bit where you can actually have a real influence. The training's the easy part.
I do oftentimes tell my husband when I'm sitting on the couch that I'm currently training right now. but I actually mean it. I do think it's important. But I was hoping you were going to give me...
So tell us about your legs.
Yeah, I did a race yesterday. It was kind of a last minute decision. 22K, 2,200 meters of up and down. One huge climb, one big descent. So we're talking 7,200 feet of descent in about 11K. And shockingly, my legs are really sore. There's a lot of gadgets out there, right? You got compression boots, electrode stim, cryotherapy.
Yeah. There's
what,
everything
if there are guns, what should I get? What's going to make me be able to run tomorrow?
So again, a lot of these things, if by doing some of the compression boots, you sit down and rest up for a little bit, that's great. If you have something that gives you time to focus on, okay, I'm making myself recover right now, that's good. But actually, again, supporting what's normal is doing active recovery, gentle stuff, offload, spin on the bike, go for a walk, eat well, stay hydrated, get that extra bit of sleep. Use a little bit
hydrated, you said?
There you go. Use a little bit of elevation, because you're going to be finding those legs are going to be swollen. They've been smashed around. They've gone through a bit of trauma. You're just trying to accelerate that recovery if you can. So some people respond brilliantly to compression. Some people really love just simple elevation, walking. Key thing is find out what works for you. There aren't any shortcuts, but everyone has different things. Some people will have huge inflammation. They'll have, literally protein disruption. There'll be all kinds of, literally all the interstitial fluid, everything feels inflamed, tender to the touch, everything else. Other people, it's when you try and actually put tension through it, it feels different. Don't add any more inflammation into that. So you do need a period of recovery. You can't run DOMs off. You can't run that muscle soreness better. It needs to run its course. But the thing is, the body will adapt. It won't be bad the next time. It's all a lesson. I've had my own brushes with feeling sore after doing training sessions. Rightly or wrongly, would I do the same things again? Probably not. I'd learn from experiences. You might want to raise that one at some point. I don't know. You might have a go at me for that. But we've all made mistakes, and say that was a run. It wasn't a mistake. You had to do it. You're just not going to put any heavy training in for the next few days.
Technically I didn't have to do it, but I chose to.
There you go. Which
is one of my favorite mantras, actually, in when I'm running and when I'm pushing hard, and I feel like, this is really tough.
You chose to be there.
As I say, I chose to be here.
There you go.
I am doing this for fun. This is fun.
And at least you're doing it. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's fair enough. I guess I won't, I'll have to give myself a little bit of time. But I do think it is something that a lot of people who maybe are coming on Run the Alps trips, or they're coming to Chamonix, they've got like a week here, and they're like, I want to get as much out of it as I can, and crap, I'm sore.
Yeah, no, for sure. But there are things you can do to make things a bit easier.
Mm-hmm. Maybe like poles, like you said.
Like poles, for sure. Use them preemptively. Don't wait for your legs to feel destroyed before you start using them. At the beginning of the day, don't go off too hard. Don't use up all that energy and kind of get a big rush of blood to the head. These are long days. These are long climbs. There's a lot of fun to be had. And at the end of the day, don't go for the sprint finish. Think of it, right, okay, I'm using my active recovery the last couple of K or whatever, just cruise into the camp, cruise into your into the refuge where you're going to go.
Do that.
The difference between racing and everything else, but just to go for that little walk afterwards. It's the last thing you actually want to do, but it's if you're trying to string days back to back, that's the one thing that's probably going to make the biggest difference. It's just being real friendly to your body. Just walk it off, get some protein down initially, get some recovery fuel in. Around here you can use all the dried hams with a bit of bread. You can use all sorts of things. It's got your protein and carbs right there. It's perfect. You don't need to necessarily go high tech, but just make sure you're doing some replacing. Try and make sure you water down that first beer with a glass of water next to you. That kind of thing. You've earned a bit of fun at the end of the day, but just put a couple of those things at the side to make it a little bit easier for you.
Fair enough. So before I ask Doug to come join us to talk to us a little bit about what's to come for Run the Alps, I do have one other question for you, which is, what are some of the craziest things that you see maybe at the Clinique, or is there a day of the year maybe that's consistently the one,
in Sham, one of the biggest things we have here is UTMB.
Mm-hmm.
It's the biggest part of the trail running calendar, and we have people from all over the world come in. These guys you've been training for. It's been the focus often for a whole running career. People just build this up into what it is, which is something truly spectacular. But unfortunately, people don't always arrive in perfect condition to do it. Often people have picked things up towards the end of the training. They've flown in, things have happened. And we have a couple of days prior to UTMB. UTMB always goes on a Friday evening, and people have come in on the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, even on the Friday, with all kinds of things saying, "Look, this is how. Can you fix this for me?" We've got we're sort of the music's starting to play, and you got people are getting a little bit nervous. The streets are filled up. But no, we've had people come off flights for things, and you just say, "Look, you simply." You're not going to make it even down to Les Houches, the first 6-7 miles in. We've had people training here doing their last little recovery runs. Had someone who's become quite a good friend of the clinic. Fell came in and said, it really doesn't feel quite right in the arm. And we're like, right, that's a trip straight to the hospital to get x-rayed, and guess what? They were in surgery 2 hours later. They managed to break their shoulder on their last shakeout run before UTMB. We've seen all kinds of horrible stories like that. Even on the other side, I remember I was one of the editions I was running. We got down, we'd done the first, must have been a mile and a half. We were just at at Les Gaillons. The first little bit, we come off the road and you go into that little wooded section, you're going past the little lake. And the guy in front of me, I saw it and heard it. He rolled his ankle to the point, everybody around heard the crack. And this guy, I think he'd come from Ecuador or something, and this poor guy, just your heart goes out to someone like that. But no, we've seen lots of things, people coming in with raging tendonitis just before a race, or all those things. But it's that's where you become a bit more of a counsellor as well.
I was going to say, sounds like maybe there's a little bit of a crossroads between therapist and physical therapist.
You're trying to break it to someone. It's you're taking away their dream, everything they've worked for years. And also spent a lot of money on travel and everything else. And you say, right, well, see how this goes. We'll get you there. Maybe think about stopping halfway, see how it goes. And inevitably, they end up making, most of the time, what is the right decision. But if you want to hold people's hand, but you've got to help them along the way. And it's those few days are pretty spectacular just before UTMB. It really sets it all up for it.
Well, that's great. So now we're going to ask Doug maybe to come and join us. Doug.
Sure. Nice to see you guys. I hate to interrupt. This is really interesting. Yeah.
Well, we're going to get more questions. You can write your questions into the Zoom.
Okay, I'll just type it in there. I'll go right over on the other side, type it in, and then exactly. Hey, I just wanted to thank you for being our new host for the Rendezvous.
Well, thanks, Doug.
And I want to talk a bit about you, actually. Can you tell us a bit about... I've got a few questions for you.
I
know you very well, but these people may not. But you first got started trail running in the White Mountains? Would you say that you're in the White Mountains of New Hampshire?
I would say that I started getting really into looking at maps and being like, could I go from here to here?
Yeah.
There's no way I would have called myself a runner.
Right.
But I was fast hiking.
You were fast hiking in awfully technical terrain.
Exactly.
Which in Chamonix, that counts as trail running.
That is trail running. By another name.
And what else? Let's see. Skyrunning champion. And we need to mention yesterday's race. Wasn't you finished in second?
That's
correct?
Right, yeah.
And I haven't heard anything about it. We'll talk more later, but can you tell us a quick update? Give us a quick update.
Yeah, well, so the race itself, it's first edition of a new Italian sky race, and the Italians love sky running. Right. It is worth going to an Italian race, just to do it and see how excited, the whole village comes out. They actually had all of, the whole, kind of historical, cultural, folkloric dancing and all of this stuff.
Cool.
It's amazing. But the race itself, 22K, pretty, runnable at the beginning, and then you'll love this. They ended the race or the uphill of the race with 1,000 meters, so over 3,000 feet in 1.8K.
Oh, solid.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So,
it's like the fully vertical kilometer.
Exactly.
That's pretty steep.
Roughly twice as steep as the Shamany VK.
Okay.
And then you get to the top of that and turn and just bomb as fast as you can down a different trail.
A 2,000 meter descent, is that what I heard?
2,200 meters.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's why we know how your legs feel today.
Exactly.
Yes, they hurt.
So, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
And tell us a bit about yourself here. You're in Chamonix. You've been, as you mentioned, as you alluded earlier, 11 years now in France.
Yeah.
From the White Mountains of New Hampshire over here with your husband, Brad.
Though I should say we're Vermonters.
Vermonters. Sorry. Right.
Yeah, but for those of you who know, St. Johnsbury is very close to New Hampshire.
Very close to the border there. And Brad, we have to talk about a bit too. Your esteemed husband.
Yes.
Because do you want to go ahead and brag a bit?
Oh, Brad.
So.
He's great. My husband Brad is a PhD in ecology. He works as a researcher at Créa Mont Blanc, the Research Center for Alpine Ecosystems, where I've worked for 5.5 years as well. And He's also a mountain guide, and the first ever American to become a full member of the Chamonix Guide Company, which is 200 years old.
Right,
So
which is
that's
very
pretty
cool and a real tribute to how incredible he is.
Hope you're watching,
As a person, I know we're embarrassing him, but he totally deserves it.
Anything.
He can't say it, he's not here. So let's see. I just want to talk briefly about Run the Alps this summer. We've got a few things. We have a few spaces left on trips. We have a lot of trips that are sold out. I just printed out our tour calendar, which you can get online. A number of trips are sold out. We have a few spaces on some Tour de Mont Blanc trips. We have a Learn to Trail Run trip coming up in the beginning of the summer, which should be a lot of fun. That's got some spaces.
Oh, it looks to me like there are 2 spaces left on Meg McKenzie's women's trail camp, which Meg came and there's an 18K version of the race that I did yesterday, which she won. And
good job, Meg.
Good job, Meg. Yeah, and she's running a trail camp, women only. So sorry, guys, but that's going to be pretty fantastic. End of June, first week or beginning of July. So.
That's the quick rundown. We've been pretty heavily booked this summer, but there's still some spaces if you're curious. And you can always go without a guide, self-guided. We prepare all the materials and get it together for you. We'll just keep it pretty simple at that. And then we have, our 2023 trips are already posted. People have been asking, I'm not that organized. I don't know who these people are, but I'm impressed.
Well done, you.
Those trips are now on the site. Not all of them, but quite a number of them are up. All of our standard trips, Tour de Mont Blanc, Dolomites, Berner Oberland in Switzerland, those are up on the site. And let's see, what else? Do you want to talk about the Hub Chamonix?
Yeah.
Tell people about that.
The Hub?
I'm waiting to hear about this. It's exciting stuff. Tell me more.
Let me tell you. The Hub is a lovely chalet down just past Sham Sud, and it is going to be a hub for trail running. It'll be open, I think, mid-June to mid-September.
Mid-June to mid-September.
And it's a place to stay, a place to hang out. Really great managers. Grace Staberg is going to be. She's already in town scoping out all the trails, so she can give advice to everyone.
Yep.
And Kim Strom, who already knows the trails here, they'll be hosting folks, and you can go online, book a room, and
Great way to meet like-minded people.
Commune with lots of different
It's a good scene.
Maybe share advice on training and recovery.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Is it stocked with all of the gadgets?
We are not stocked with all the gadgets. We're stocked with Neil, who is about 300 meters away.
Fantastic.
And let's see, this week we're going to be announcing the winner of our Good Karma contest. We gave away a trip here this summer and airfare to someone who has contributed to the trail running world.
Yeah, this was a cool initiative because I got to be on the jury and read all of the applications, and it was hard to decide. There are a lot of really outstanding people out there contributing to their community.
It was great to do.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else?
We have the next Run the Alps Rendezvous will be with Buzz.
Buzz Burrell. Yeah. If you don't know Buzz, he is wonderful.
Watch the rendezvous and get to meet him.
He's one of the, I would almost say, creators. He would probably object to that, of Ultimate Direction. He is one of the co-creators with Peter Backwin of the entire FKT. What would you call it? A movement, something like that.
Culture.
Yeah. They about 20 years ago they did a run on the Muir Trail, and they created the term FKT. Anyway, Buzz is going to be here. He's a character. He's incredibly smart. He's really wonderful. He's a lot of fun, and you're going to get a chance to interview him.
Yeah, I've never met him before, so
he's cool.
I'll get to ask all of the questions based on what I have heard about him.
Yeah. So he's actually here coming. He's in a new age group, he said, and he's coming. We've actually set him up on a trip, in fact.
Okay.
And he's coming for 6 weeks or something like that, and he's doing 3 or 4 races. Wow. He's like, I'm in a new age group. I'm training. I'm ready to
Taking
go.
home the cheese.
Exactly, that's his plan.
Taking home the cheese.
So,
Yeah.
all right, I'll get out of here.
Hang on, just really
Yeah.
quickly, two other things that I would mention is that I know that there's the new Run the Alps newsletter that is pretty awesome with lots of stories and stuff in there.
Yeah,
I'm a subscriber.
Excellent, thank you. About once a month we're kind of rounding up the news from the Alps in the trail running world. And that's been a lot of fun to create that. We've got people contributing. Kim Strom is doing the layout and the design, and it's a good way to stay in touch. So you can subscribe on the website, of course. And was there something else?
Well, I was going to mention one other thing, and it is to help people prepare who are going on trips.
Of course. Thank you. Our
no problem.
PPP program.
As you know, I got to spend this weekend with Meg. Meg McKenzie, who is doing the women's trail running trip and is also a coach. So I got to hear a little bit about it from her. But.
So this is our, PPP is Personalized Preparation Program. And it kind of syncs with the stuff you guys were talking about. The goal is if you're, maybe a little bit concerned about your Run the Alps trip, or maybe you're just coming over here to do the Marathon Mont Blanc or one of the UTMB races, or one of the shorter races, Eiger Ultra or something, and short races. They have shorter races. They have a 16K. Don't worry. Yeah, I know. I'm doing the 200. I'm like, okay, wait, no.
Like if you're looking for a short race, say Tour de Géant.
All right. It's a little program with Meg and also Sam Hill, two great coaches and great people, very empathetic and very caring. And they will spend an hour with you on the phone, talk through various issues, hear about what you're up to. It's not a coaching program per se, but they will spend some time with you and then follow up with a bunch of notes of things, to help you sort of wrap your mind around coming to the Alps and all the vert and getting ready for your trip or whatever it is you're doing.
I would say, though, that then talking with, what Neil was just saying, though, that remembering that, say you're going on a trip in August.
Don't start in July.
Don't start at the end of July. Keep in mind, 6 to 8 weeks for adaptation.
I think it's a great idea, and people will really benefit from it. It is just a friendly thing for your body, just to get the most out of your trip. It really is.
And if it doesn't work out, there's always Neil. Right. All right, I'll leave you guys to the second half.
You.
Okay, take care.
So before we go to the questions from the audience, I have actually a couple questions. So for you in your career as an athlete as well.
Oh, right.
Because Neil is like very modest. I aspire, whatever. But done the UTMB, done some of the big famous ski mountaineering races around here. But I would like to know if you have anything in mind, most embarrassing trail running moment.
Most
embarrassing. I'm actually not really a superlatives person myself because I feel like it puts the pressure on, to choose the best. Or recent.
Well, okay, recent events, okay. So I know how you got me now. You're going to corner me somewhere on this one. So we were getting ready for the Patrie. I knew exactly where this was going. The Patrie de Glacier. So it's a big skimo race, but a lot of people probably know this one. But it's got just under 4,400 meters of climbing. And whilst we've been training around 3,500 quite regularly, you can't replace good time up at altitude for the training. So I thought, right, okay, we've got the Aiguille du Midi. I can see this from my office window. I look up at it every day and it's right there.
And it's high.
3,700 meters, what's that, just under 13,000 feet. And it's like, that's the place to go. And surely all I want to do is, they've got external stairs. I can tell you there's 122 of them. And I took myself up there and I went up and down them. And then I accumulated 500 meters of vertical on there. I had my full race pack on as well, so that was a good 6, almost 7 kilos. I'm pretty fit. I was feeling good. I was jogging up the stairs, feeling good. Thought nothing of it until the next morning. Yeah, and for the next week, I could not walk. My calves, I can't even explain the pain. I've done multiple UTMBs. I've done all these blisters. Didn't even compare. This was the worst I'd ever felt, and that was induced in about an hour of movement. You live and learn. You live and learn. Definitely. I couldn't hide as well because everyone could
I
see
mean,
the way
it
I was
sounded,
walking.
as you were like describing it, I was thinking, yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
That's what I figured as well. But apparently, again, you use your calf muscles for when you have a training shoe on. You don't use them quite so much when you're in a ski boot.
Yeah.
So whilst I was able to ski, I couldn't move.
All right, well, don't do that.
Yeah, you live and learn.
Yeah. And then, so how about any, like, worst or best race moments? Or trail running moments generally?
I did love to think, okay, it's running through the big arch at the end of the race, you get your big fanfare. I keep talking about UTMB, but it's the biggest thing around here. My typical thing, I'm definitely not an elite runner, but I actually finish ahead of quite a bit of the pack, so I'm kind of in that phase where every time I finished.
Yeah, to be clear, how many people start the UTMB?
2,400 or so, give or take. I got a 250 finish, and I sort of sit around there between 250, 200, maybe that sort of thing. Really. But what the result is, you're not finishing with all the elites, where all the fanfares are during the daytime, and you don't finish where most people finish during daytime. So consistently, I'm fighting with the guy trying to deliver newspapers coming down the line. There's no one there. There's no music. You're like, it's okay. Someday I'm going to work out a way to actually finish either really early or a little bit later. But it's all these finishes. They're always special. But you have lots of experience along the way. Lots of fun hallucinations always kick in. I've had a few fun ones. Like most people like to swap hallucination stories, but
having not pushed myself to sports-induced hallucinations, you'll have to acquaint me with that. I think that Doug could share stories about that.
There was one very clear one, coming through towards the UTMB, and it was coming off Bovine just past La Giette, and when you come down, before you come into Trion, this is lovely. It's a lovely bit of running. This path that descends down, you're kind of traversing a little bit around the mountain, and night had just started to fall on that second night, and I was very aware that there's a very big steep cliff on the right hand side. And as I was running along, I was like, be careful, because there's a bit of grass just there. And within that moment, and I hadn't had any sort of hallucinations before this, the grass came up and started trying to wrap itself around my ankles and pull me over the side. And I then moved over to the other side, and then all the stumps, all the trees, everything else, they became woodland animals, and the big trees, the stumps, they were Mexicans with the sombreros and coming up and saying hello to me. It was a full-on experience, and until you've experienced actually knowing what's going on, knowing that these hallucinations, but you're right there in the middle of it, and it's just you end up just going with it. It's a very odd thing, and actually it's quite fun.
How many hours in?
That would have been probably 20 hours in, 22 hours in, somewhere around there. Yeah, somewhere around there.
Well,
you're too fast. You go through your races too quickly, don't you? That's the thing.
I don't go quite as far. Yeah, but well, speaking of timing, I think that time is passing. So I'm gonna skip to. I do have just a quick lightning round for you. I did not tell you.
Okay.
As a physio, are you more of a do as I say, not as I do, or more of a lead by example person?
I try to lead by example. I would not ask people to do something I haven't done myself.
Okay. Summer or winter?
Ooh, came for the winters, stayed for the summers. Talking about Shamany.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so to the same end, I was going to ask UTMB or PDG, which is the Patrouille des Glaciers, the ski race that we just did.
Oh God, it's. Do you like chocolate or ice cream? They're both really good.
Okay, this is rapid fire.
UTMB.
Okay.
UTMB.
Okay. Best cake you've ever had?
Something to do with olive oil, and was it orange?
This was a trick question. I made a cake.
Very memorable, I can tell you.
I've heard you say that you read a book a week. What are you reading right now?
Right now, I am reading Walking with Wolves by Philippa Forrester.
All right. Well, what's your spirit animal?
I'd love to say chamois, but it's probably more of a marmot.
I love it. All right, so now I think that we're going to do some questions from the audience. If anybody has been putting questions in, we actually did get a couple that were submitted in advance. So I'm going to combine two questions from Susan in Burlington, Vermont, and Jen in Gunnison, Colorado, who are both having to travel to come. And so Susan's doing the Eiger Ultra. She can only get to Grindelwald a couple days before the race. She probably can't buy a business class ticket to sleep very comfortably the whole flight. And likewise, Jen is doing a Run the Alps Tour de Mont Blanc trip. How can they hit the ground running? What should people be thinking about when they're having to travel for races?
Okay. Be organised. Take stress out of the equation. Pack your bag a week before you go. That's the big thing. Make sure, we all have margin for improvement. Pack your bag before you go. Try and clear your inbox. Try and do that. So your mind isn't on a million things at once. It's just on getting to the place you're getting to and looking forward and being in the moment with the experience. When you're traveling, if you're coming from the States, you're likely going to have a few transfers, a few little layovers in places. Walk around in the airports. Have a walk, lie down, get your legs right up in the air. Shake them out, just keep moving. That's always a winner. Again, the boring stuff, but it works. Alcohol.
Drink lots.
Stay hydrated on the flight, and maybe consider taking some protein bars, some foods that you like you're going to be able to eat rather than sort of having to end up with whatever you get supplied online through there. Get moving. If you can catch up on sleep before you go, certainly leave well rested. And get all the things in place that you like for the flight. Just be organised. You have the things around you that you feel comfortable with. And when you get there, don't go too hard on your first session if you're there. If you've got a couple of days, you're going to be able to have a little bit of a shakeout run, but make sure it is actually only a shakeout run. That's the other big thing. People always think of a slow run. I'm doing my slow run, my recovery run. They're always too fast. You cannot go too slowly on a recovery run. Just make the most of that little window before you get there. Rest up, eat well, and just get properly psyched for it because you're not thinking about other things.
Actually, we did not ever talk about this before, but my personal piece of advice also for travel is make sure that you put your very basic kit into your carry-on, because I have flown to a race and had my luggage get lost and did not until the night before the race have my running shoes. And I have never been so stressed out in my life. So always just, put your basics in there so that you could, if they lost your bag, you could still get out for a run without you having to buy everything. Another question that I have here is, it's a question for me. Thanks, Doug, for printing this. So for me, somebody who knows me and has followed along with me, and they want to know if I hike the hills when there's 100 or 1,000 meter climb. And the answer to this. We already talked about it a little bit. And the answer is yes. Yes, I hike the hills. In fact, anytime, I'm always thinking about economy of how can I do this in a way that I'm going to be expending the least energy possible. And so I am oftentimes hiking the hills. Almost always. I do know people who for some reason think that's not trail running, and they stop their watch when they're going to be.
But how many people do you hike past who are trying to run?
Oh yeah, that's also one of my favorite things.
This is the personal favorite. It's how are you doing?
Yeah, I love a good power hike past a runner. Yeah. That's one of my go-to things. Which actually is one of my recommendations. Also, is to train for hiking. Part of your training, part of my training that my coach has me do is alternating hike run, and the running is the resting, and I power hike training. So this one is, we'll be in Chamonix in 2 weeks. Are the higher trails snow free?
Wow, right, okay, so how high have you been?
Well, it depends a lot, north or south.
Yeah. Okay, well, we were driving up today, weren't we? And we had a look up at the very top of the valley, the Aiguille de Pesette, which is about 2,350, 2,004, isn't it? Somewhere around there. And that was all snow-free. That was looking good. The vertical kilometers free for sure. And guess what's coming this week? We've got an incredible heat wave coming.
Yeah.
So we're going to see some rapid change in the valley. So you've got 2 weeks to come. You know, there's going to be an amazing amount of open terrain. So yeah, you're going to have a lot of fun.
Yeah, I would say that for anyone who is traveling, anytime you come to Chamonix, basically, it's really good to get to the Maison de la Montagne and check out the Chamonix because they give spot on the most updated trail conditions.
We'll put links in the show, yeah?
Yeah,
in the show notes.
Yeah. That's a good reminder that
your French accent is so good that maybe not everyone can pick up on what you're doing. Yes.
Yeah. All right. So we do have one other question, which is Kevin from Carbondale wanted to know if you've ever treated Killian, and if you did you pull out some of his hair and save some of his DNA? I would imagine that for like medical secrecy, you're not actually allowed to talk about your clients.
We can't name who's been in. We've got a few people have left very nice comments on the website. I can probably say that, but in total, if we look at winners of UTMB, total wins we've probably had amongst the athletes we're probably between 15 and 20 in terms of winners, and that's probably more than that if we actually talk about all of the UTMB events that are out there. Stars,
they're just like us.
It's so much fun. I'm grateful every day for who we see, who comes in, and it really is. You never know who or what's going to come in every day. You know, that's the fun thing. It really is.
And actually, one other thing that I do want to ask you is, so one sort of maybe parting words for everybody is, if our audience wants to avoid having to make an appointment at the Clinique du Sport upon arrival, what would be like one thing to tell them?
One thing to avoid coming to see me.
Yeah.
Well,
except to like say hi.
If we want to come out, we'll hang out at the hub. We'll go for a coffee there. That's all good. But the one thing I try and get across, and it's with everything for avoiding injury, for making performance gains. It's about consistency. We all want to see quick gains, and actually that's not how things are built. If you only ever run in the summer, that's going to be hard. You have a winter sport, try and bring that in, and just expect things to take time to change. Don't do the really outrageous session that puts you out for 4 or 5 days, like running up on the aiguille and stuff like that, and trashing yourself. Do the bits that are going to allow you to build. Just keep building. Your body will adapt, and performance, injury robustness, all those things come about from that. So it's not the big headline. We always want to be glamorous with something. It's all this new revolution type of training. But when you look at people who have real success, you can tell from the Strava, people are just doing it. They're out lots and lots of time. Maybe not doing the same sessions. Again, variability with consistency. I love that. So you be consistent with your training. You're not just doing the same run every day. You're not pounding the same 5K.
Consistently variable.
Beautiful. Love it. It keeps the body guessing, and that's why trail running's great, because it's different from road. You're on different surfaces, you're different areas, you're moving, you're changing, you're going up, you're going down. It's wonderful. So just get out there, make your trail running consistent, and just get out there and have fun. That's what it's all about.
I think that's a great way to end it. So thanks everybody for joining us. And so now, Neil, now that everybody's gone, I've been having this little...
Go give us a shout out. So we're making some more cakes soon, are you?
Yeah, I'll trade you.
That's a cut.